everybody, James Shepard here with another Merchant Sales Insight. Today I want to talk to you about an extremely practical trend that is happening in the payment space. Why do I say practical trend? Well, what I mean by that is it would be easy for me to make a really cool, compelling video about cryptocurrency acceptance or BNPL or who knows what else you want to talk about today, FedNow, all these things that are coming in the future that are making big waves and changes. But the thing is, right now, one of the biggest shifts in the industry is this influx of free hardware and even broader, this idea of buying merchant accounts, okay? And so I want to take just a second to kind of zoom out and talk about finance just a little bit and explain why this is happening. You've all seen it, Toast is offering your merchant free hardware at all their locations. And, we've seen sign-on bonuses and just all these different things to try to get accounts. And I want to explain that a little bit to you today from a finance perspective. And then I want to talk about our sponsor, which is PayBright. Many of you know Dustin Magaziner is the CEO at PayBright. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about them and what they're doing to combat some of these trends and to really facilitate the agent ISO community to be able to be competitive in that environment. So first of all, let's back up a minute and talk about finance, okay? Here we go. Finance is really simple. There is capital. Capital is always looking for the best return. That's it, right? In other words, there are people, there are private equity firms, there are investors who have money, and they have a lot of money, and they're saying, where can we invest this money in order to get a good return on our investment? So let's take our hat off for a second. We're not an agent. We're not an ISO anymore. Right now, we're just thinking that we're business people. We're just thinking in terms of investment, all right? If you have a retirement account and I told you, hey, I've got an investment right now where you could make an investment and you could get a 15% annual return on that investment, right? How would you feel about that investment? You'd probably say, where do I sign? How much money can I put into this investment, right? Or you might ask how risky it is, but if it's like, hey, it's a really good investment, it's got long-term potential, 15% return, you'd be all over that, okay? Now let's think about the average merchant account, especially the average merchant account on differential pricing, dual pricing, compliant surcharging, cash discounting, whatever, right? Most of these accounts, the average of these accounts is way over $100 a month in total margin on the account, right? Many of them are $200, $300, $400, $500 a month in margin. So let's use the $100 a month in margin for just a second. So the $100 a month in margin, that means $1,200 a year in return. So whatever you have to invest to get this account, you're getting a $1,200 annual return on that investment. Okay? Well, the other question we have to ask with this particular type of investment is lifetime value, right? How long is this account going to stick around? Well, what we figured out is once we're doing an integrated approach where we have an integrated technology like a point of sale system or something, we're seeing that these accounts are sticking around for 5+ years. So 5 years is 60 months. Okay, 60 months, $100 a month in margin, that's $6,000, right? So the question is, how much would an investor pay in order to get $6,000 over 5 years? Right? So when you start thinking about it from that approach, it's very different. And you're like, well, I've got this little account. It's not even that big of an account. It's, they do $12,000 a month, $15,000 a month in volume. They're going to do dual pricing and it's going to make us, $150 a month. And it's like, well, wait a minute. That's $9,000 lifetime value if they stick around for 5 years, which isn't like that long for integrated payments. And it's like, well, would I be willing to give a merchant that does $15,000 a month in volume? Would I be willing to write them a check for $2,000 in order to get them to sign up and stick with me? Right? Would I be willing to give them, $3,000 in free hardware? And historically, it's been like, no, that's insane. Obviously not, right? But wait a second. What's happening is all of the capital out there, the private equity firms, the investors, they're all looking at our industry saying, you guys are all crazy. They're like, we have all this money, and if we can go out there and if we can buy that account for $2,000 and we're going to get a $9,000 return over the next 5 years, of course we're going to make that investment, right? And so what I think is interesting is it's very tempting for us as a group, ISOs and agents and stuff, to look at this and say, this is just bad, and like, how dare these people come in and ruin our industry? It's like, hold on a second. This is a free market. What we have to do is we have to adapt. And we have to say, wait a second, does it make sense to invest money up front in order to get an account? Yeah, it can make sense, right? And so I think the important thing to do here is we have to zoom out for a minute and just say, hold on, we need to make sure that we have free hardware options, right? We need to make sure that we're willing to make those investments to get the account and that we're set up to do that. So That brings me to our sponsor, which is PayBright. You can head over to gopaybright.com to check it out, or reach out to Dustin Magaziner. Pretty easy name to remember. He's on LinkedIn. He's really active in the Facebook group, so reach out to him there. But the reason I'm talking about Dustin here is that PayBright has, in my opinion, one of if not the best free placement programs in the industry. Because here's the issue. Most of the free placement programs out there today are really mired in like a policy approach from 5 years ago that are like, well, we'll give you one free terminal if you do 10,000 a month in volume. And then if you do this, well, and it's like, okay, I get it. You need to have your policies, but like, hold on a second. The market has shifted. We have to like make bigger investments to get these accounts, and the market has shifted, meaning we need to do integrated payment technology that's going to have a much longer lifetime value. So what Dustin and his team do at PayBright is they look at each deal individually and they say, hey, if the deal makes sense, if it's profitable, let's do that deal, right? I was talking to them recently about one of their agents brought them a veterinarian clinic that had like a bunch of locations, and they needed some crazy, I think it was like 42 Clover Flex units or something like that. And they ran the math. It made sense. They made the investment on behalf of the agent. They just said, hey, sure, we'll give you 40, whatever it is, free Flex units. Like, that's a huge investment, but they did that because they knew the account was going to be profitable for both them and the agent, and they're willing to do that and make that investment, and they look at it on a case-by-case basis. So I think having a partner like PayBright is a huge benefit to you. So head over to gopaybright.com and check it out. But one of the other things that's interesting about them is they don't have private equity backing. They don't have the investor backing. This is something that Dustin runs. And so what's cool about that is it's very different from what others are doing. Now, I don't want to in any way say that it's bad having private equity backing, investor backing. I'm not saying that's bad at all. I have a lot of friends in the industry that do that. But I do think that does add some additional decision makers. It adds some additional pressure to make sure that everything we're doing is proceduralized and very carefully done. And that's good in some cases, but when we're trying to compete with these new companies coming in and we're in this rapid adjustment phase of the industry, there's a huge benefit to working with a company that is making decisions based on what's best for the agent and what's best for the merchant, and they don't have all that outside investor pressure, whether it's private equity or VC firm or anything like that. So I think that's really crucial. So here's the big takeaway today. All right. We see the change in the industry. People are willing to pay more money. Companies are willing to pay more money to buy merchant accounts. We see it all the time. Okay, Toast is doing it. So many companies are doing it, right? They're willing to spend money, whether that's in marketing dollars, whether that's in free hardware, whether that's in signing bonuses, whatever it is. They're willing to spend a lot of money to get customers. So we got to say, hey, that's a shift. We need to embrace that. We can't just like, well, let's see if we can fight that. You can't fight it. Like, what do you think the business owner, they shouldn't take that money? Like, no, they're going to take the money. You can't say like, we're just going to fight against it. No, like, you got to say, hold on, what's our approach going to be? Like, how are we going to compete with this? And a big part of that is having a partner that is willing to do some free hardware, that's willing to look at deals on a case-by-case basis. And also, I think there's a big benefit to having a company that doesn't have private equity or investors as an option. Maybe it's not the only company you write for, but having a company like PayBright is really crucial when you need to get a deal done. So all that to say, head over to our sponsor, gopaybright.com. Just like it sounds, gopaybright.com, or check out Dustin Magaziner on LinkedIn or Facebook. Hey everybody, James Shepard here. Wish you great success out there competing in the marketplace, and I hope that you have a fantastic rest of your week.